Hello and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be doing an everyday makeup tutorial. This is just like a really easy, simple look that you can wear pretty much anywhere. Like, you know, you could just go to the shops or out to the park, or, you know, if you went out with some friends or anything. It's just a really simple, easy, everyday look. I'm just kidding, obviously. So this is my second Halloween video that I'm filming, and I've wanted to do this for so long. And I'm just now realising that I haven't done the neck, but that would have taken so much. This has taken me a long time as it is. If you want to do the neck, go ahead and do the neck if you're like slightly more talented than me, because it's very complicated. But today is a sort of Rick Genest skeleton inspired makeup look. If you know Rick Genest, he's otherwise known as Zombie Boy, and he's like an alternative model. He's been in loads of things. He's just brilliant, and I've always been really inspired by his tattoos, and I've wanted to do a tutorial like this for a long time. So really hope you enjoy the video, and let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so for this tutorial I'll start off with a very sort of blank canvas. I've used the Lancôme Teint Idole Ultra Wear Foundation in the lightest shade, which is a bit light for me at the moment, but I wanted my skin to look a bit paler anyway. And I've also used this Pro Artist Professional London white concealer under the eyes, as well as a little bit of the Collection Lasting Perfection concealer in Fair. My skin's all primed, moisturised, and I've got like a good base to start working on. So what I'm going to do is I've got a reference picture on my phone, and I'm going to take this LA Girl Glide Gel Liner, and this is in the shade white, and I'm going to start marking out some of the bigger shapes just using this pencil to start off with. Okay, so I'm just starting off with the shape of the eyes. This is a really soft pencil, so it's very easy to use, and you can also clean up any mistakes with like a little bit of tissue with some makeup remover. And this is going to be slightly different because I'm going to keep my eyebrows sort of separate from this dark shape, I think. I'm going to start filling in the nose, which comes a little bit higher up than what I first thought. And then I'm just going to follow the sort of skull nose shape down. You can also reference your own bone structure, because this sort of thing will look different on everybody, just based on the way that your own personal bone structure is. Now I'm just working on filling in the teeth. And the thing with this is, the number that I'm going to be able to draw on will be different to the number of tattoos that Rick Genest has on his own face, because just based on bone structure and, you know, the width of your face, the length of your face. So I'm just going to keep them evenly spaced and just try and get on as many as I can to sort of replicate the shape. Okay, now I'm going to move on to the sort of forehead area, and there's like a line of the cranium with like the brain exposed, but I'm not bald, so I'm not going to be able to do that, but I'm just going to do the sort of front part of it the best that I can. It's quite an even line, but there are some sort of cracks in it, so feel free to go and add in those. You can add, I think there's about 3 to 4 in there. This is a very detailed tattoo, so it's quite difficult to, you know, replicate with like a pencil at the way it is at the moment. Okay, so this whole area here will be black, and then these parts at the side of the face will be as well. I'm not going to be able to fill in like the super fine details at the moment, but I'm just trying to get the sort of base shape down, because that will just help you in the long run. And it's quite hard to get these sort of even, especially even if you've got if you're trying to line it up, but by the time it's all filled in, you can always change it a little bit as you go. And then once you've added the teeth, you can draw a line outwards as a sort of a separating line. You can do this first if you find it easier, but I would rather match up the teeth a little bit first and then go ahead and do this step. And then also on the top part there's a dark centre line and then sort of like the brain effect. So this is going to be hard to do with just the pencil, but I'm just going to draw in a few lines just to guide me later on, and I can always change it. And I'm just adding in some final details. Like I said, it's easy to use a reference picture when you're doing something like this. It's quite complicated. There's also these two little bits that come down from the bottom of the eye, so I have to make sure to fill them in later, but there's lots of little other details that we'll get onto. I'm now going to take a black eyeliner pencil and just start filling in certain areas, and then I'm going to move on to painting after I've just done some of the smaller pieces with this. Any super fine details I'm going to save to use with a pen liquid liner, because that will be a lot easier to do. I just want to fill in this sort of eye shape in the very inner corners, because that will be harder to get to with paint, and I'm just going to fill it in with an eyeliner. I can always go over it again later on. I'm just filling in the teeth because they're not super defined as teeth, they're more just sort of lines on the actual mouth itself. Further out they get a bit more detailed. I'm also going to go ahead and fill my eyebrows in with this eyeliner. Okay, there we go, there's my eyebrows looking very dark and strange. I'm now going to go into my Kryolan aqua paints, which are like this, and I'm going to obviously take the black shade and I'm going to start filling in some of the detail and filling in the bigger dark areas. I'm just moving on to the other eye, and I've left a little bit of a gap underneath on the top. I'm going to fill that in with eyeliner instead, it's just a little bit safer. Especially if you're not confident with water paint, it's easier to do it that way. I mean, I probably wouldn't be too bad doing it, but just to be on the safe side, use an eyeliner for the very, very close parts to your eye. I've also already put a little bit of mascara just because I know that otherwise I'm going to have my eyelashes sticking out. Especially if you've got light eyelashes, you want to make sure that you put some black mascara on to cover them up, or you could put on false lashes if you wanted to. Okay, now I'm going to move on to the sides of my face, and this bit is quite tricky, so just take your time. I think I've made this a little bit too big, so I'm going to fill this in smaller and then just wipe that bit off. So in the tattoo, this bit's not all completely dark. There's a bit that comes down and then there's another bit that connects here. So it's not black all the way across. And then it sort of is darker again over here. So just bear in mind when you're doing this. I've got some photos from the side as well to help me with this part because this is a bit more tricky. Now there are some parts that are more grey, so you can mix a white and black together and create sort of a lighter grey shade. There's like some grey shading around the forehead mainly and on the sides of the face, so you can go ahead and add that bit in. I'm going to do that in a minute after I've just filled in a bit more of the detail. There's also a bluish tinge to some parts in the this top area, so if you wanted to take a blue and mix it with a little bit of black, that's just what I'm doing here to just add in the dimension of the colour, because there's like a fade up the top here, and you can I'm going to blend this out in a minute with a little bit more water, and you can sort of blend it upwards to create sort of a gradient colour. So I'm just filling in the sides here and adding the detail into the teeth. The ones that are in the mouth sort of have like a darker gradient at the top, and then it sort of connects. I've only done two teeth inside, sort of inside. I think there's more like 3 on his tattoo, but it's quite difficult to do on yourself, so I'm just going to do 2 to try and not let it get too messy. If you want to, you can also wipe off a little bit of it and redo it, because I've just wiped off part of that to add in sort of an extra tooth. I'm just going to go in with this Colour Precise eyeliner from Rimmel, and I'm going to define some parts of it to neaten it up a little bit. The teeth all have this sort of little circle at the top, almost like a matchstick. So if you want to get a really small eyeliner and sort of do a dot and a little circle on the top of each of them. I'm just adding some fine details in. This eyeliner pen is sort of running out, but that kind of works for what I want it to do, because some of these are a lot more subtle sort of lines compared to the rest of the face, and there's some like little dots as well. I've just added in some detail around the top. You can do basically whatever you want to make it easy for yourself. It's sort of like lines and then like dots within it, sort of like tendons or something. But you can draw on whatever is sort of easiest. I'll try to follow the shape as best as I can, but it's quite difficult. And I'm just going to add in some more of the dots, and I need to add in the veins on the chin as well. I'm just taking that black eyeliner once more and filling in the sparse areas that are really close to my eye. He doesn't usually wear any black eyeliner on the lower lash line, but you could do that if you wanted to. I'm just going to go back in with my fine brush and some black, and I'm just going to do some last cleaning up the teeth and just a bit more detailing and making sure everything looks a bit smoother. Okay, and then kind of, I think almost at like the last point here, I'm going to take this shade Black from the Lorac Pro palette, and I'm just going to set my lids with this shade so that it doesn't sort of crease move around everywhere. I'm also doing this on the other parts of the face. It will just really intensify that colour and just make it look a lot more like a very solid shade. You don't have to do this step if you don't want to, depending on the exact look you're going for, but I think it will really intensify any of the darker areas and just sort of deepen them up a little bit. I'm just going to connect these areas to my hairline as well, just to make it look a bit more authentic. And I'm just going to blend that black shade just sort of in. You can have a shower afterwards, it's fine. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to fill all those areas in. This shade is really good because it doesn't have a lot of fallout, but it is pigmented, so you don't really want something that's going to have a lot of fallout at a time like this, because it'd be a lot harder to clean up. Make sure to put it under your eyes as well, because that's where a lot of like creasing can occur. I'm just going to tap a little bit in this area because this part is a little bit darker, and I'm just going to use this to sort of shade a sort of gradient up from that line, because I've tried to do it with other things but it didn't quite work. So use the shadows for any more, use an eyeshadow for any more sort of smoky shadows on the face, like the shading on the teeth, on the lower parts of the teeth. That can be done with a shadow. It's just a little bit easier rather than trying to get like a smoky look out of a liner or a paint. It's easier to do it with a shadow, obviously. I'm just going to add a bit of black onto the middle of my lips, just to sort of like blend it together. And if you really wanted to go for the authentic sort of Rick Genest look, you could go ahead and pop in one of these fake septum piercings, or if you have an actual septum piercing unlike me, then you could just use your own. But I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. We're pretty much done with it. I removed a little bit of the black off my lips because I still wanted this line to be a bit more defined. Really hope you enjoyed watching this, and let me know if you ever wanted to recreate this, and just like go ahead and tag me. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.